In this update, we're tracking two large storm systems that will bring multiple rounds of severe weather, along with some very heavy rainfall, then some snow along a cold front on the backside. So let's delve into the details and start off with the latest satellite picture and take a look. I really kind of blew up the time and date so it's easy to follow along. But here's the upper level low that we were tracking yesterday along the East Coast. That's still impacting those areas with some additional heavier rainfall this morning. That will be moving out later on today, but the main concern going forward over the next couple of days is this very active subtropical jet stream, and that's going to lead to multiple rounds of severe storms for day one. And then here's as we get into tomorrow, and then another round will pop up during the day on Saturday. So it's a very active time in the weather department with these multiple rounds of severe weather. So I appreciate all my subscribers out there. I would love to reach 250,000 subscribers on this channel. If you do like daily weather breakdowns on North America as well as the tropics, hit the subscribe button and follow along so I can keep you well ahead of the storm. So let's take a look at these two large main complexes. Here's the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center as of early this morning. And yes, we have a southwestern mode that has a slight risk for severe storms into the San Angelo area. That does include portions of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we also have a northern mode also impacting those areas in western Oklahoma, eventually feeding into Kansas. These are two main complexes that will be watching some pocket-sized hail and some larger hail at times. This is very active low-level jet and looks to be some training thunderstorms now with very heavy rainfall. And we've had an upgrade from the Weather Prediction Center with now a slight risk for very excessive rainfall within this region. That does include down here towards the San Angelo eastward, does include areas in West Texas, North Texas. All those areas could pick up some now training supercell thunderstorms that does have some larger hail associated with it, but also that training convective complex could lead to some isolated flash flooding later on today into the overnight hour. So it's kind of a very messy, complex storm system that will be several rounds of modes, and that will feed even further north into Oklahoma and back into Missouri as well as into Arkansas. So we're going to delve deeper into the details of this forecast, but first, a word from my sponsor.
Hello everyone. Today I want to have a candid conversation about safeguarding our privacy in a digital age. As someone deeply invested in protecting my family's personal information, I understand the importance of staying vigilant in an increasingly interconnected world. That's why I'm excited to share with you an invaluable tool that made a profound difference in my life, Aura, today's video sponsor. I'll be honest, prior to discovering Aura, I was inundated with unwanted robocalls and constantly worried about the security of my personal information. It felt like a never-ending battle trying to keep up with the constant barrage of privacy threats. Aura is not just another identity protection service, it's a game changer. From the moment I signed up, I felt a sense of relief knowing that Aura was digitally working behind the scenes, safeguarding my family's privacy. Here's a list of the data brokers they were able to remove 14 different ones over the last couple of months. One of the things I love most about Aura is the simplicity of their platform. Everything I need to protect my family's privacy is right at my fingertips. If you're tired of feeling vulnerable online and want to take control of your digital privacy, I urge you to give Aura a try. With their 2-week free trial, there's a no risk involved, just the opportunity to reclaim your peace of mind. Visit aura.com/POW to sign up today and let Aura do all the heavy lifting. Trust me, you won't regret it.
So let's take a look at the forecast later on this afternoon. Here's the latest update from the high resolution guidance. Again, you can follow along top right hand corner. This is around 2 o'clock this afternoon. And again, this is kind of a messy convective complex. We'll have the northern mode branch off a convective complex that will inundate those areas into portions of Kansas as well as into Missouri. And then we'll have kind of those training thunderstorms really start to elongate on that southern mode into northwestern Arkansas, down through central portions of Oklahoma, as well as into portions of north and west Texas. And that's where we could lead to some heavier rainfall, especially as we head into the afternoon, and also an elevated increased hail threat within this sector, especially down here into West Texas. And as we get into the 8 o'clock time frame, I think it's going to be a very active evening down here in North Texas, and then further to the north up here in the northwest areas of Missouri around 8 o'clock later on tonight. We should have another round of stronger to severe thunderstorms highlighted across that region, and then all kind of feeds in further south into southeastern Oklahoma, back in towards the Red River, back into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and tailing on the backside. But this is not even the main system. It's still working out west, and you can see where the cold front is. We've got dotted areas of some isolated snow that will be coming on the backside as a pretty strong cold front, because we still actually are in winter, folks. I know it's been abnormally warm, but this is a fairly decent, stronger cold front for March standards, and out ahead of it, we've got a lot of soupy air mass that we're going to contend with, and with those higher dew points, that's where we're going to have that elevated severe weather threat, with the main complex coming through areas of West and North Texas into central Oklahoma. This would likely be tomorrow morning. This is on Friday, and this is the area that I'm more concerned about. Depends on the convectivity into later on this afternoon. Today will likely feed on what happens tomorrow. So if we get a lot of activity, it could limit the activity for Friday morning. But if we don't, it's more isolated. It definitely could actually enhance this severe threat as we head into Friday morning across this region into Oklahoma, as well as into North Texas. That will be a quick moving line of thunderstorms, likely in the morning time frame, so it's going to affect your morning commute. And then further to the north, this won't be severe, but definitely some light to moderate and some heavier rains at times that will feed off that northern mode of the complex, heading into southeastern Missouri, back into Illinois, as well as into portions of Indiana. But you can see where the snow is on the backside in the northwestern Iowa, into portions of Nebraska, and this actually could start feeding into western Kansas and even portions of western Oklahoma as we get into Friday morning. But out ahead of it, we're still in the warm sector, and I think this is where we have the most elevated threat for severe storms and even a tornado threat within this region, coming out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area into East Texas as we get deeper into the afternoon on Friday, heading into East Texas through the Little Rock region, into Shreveport, back into Lake Charles, as well as into Mobile. That would include the Jackson region, as well as into Birmingham, but eventually heading into Montgomery. That will be during the day on Friday, heading into Friday night, extending into the overnight hours. And that could lead to some heavier rainfall. But here's where the snow swath could unfold between now and, say, midnight on Saturday morning. Yeah, that's a pretty good blanket of snow across the Rockies, back into portions of Nebraska, a dusting or two into western Kansas, western Oklahoma. And look at this, folks. This is a nice welcome surprise, actually. Not just the snow, 1 to 2 inches of snowfall, but that's where the fires have been recently. All the wildfires, and I think this actually reaches those areas, into those wildfire-prone areas, into the far northeastern portions of the Texas Panhandle, western Oklahoma. Yeah, you could be picking up a dusting, 1, possibly 2 inches of snow of isolated amounts and within that region. And look up here into Maine. I think that's just the beginning stages of some more heavier rains, heavier snowfall that will unfold as we get deeper into the weekend with that storm system that will be coming up. So let's break this thing down for you, because we do have a significant hail risk with that southern mode of that storm complex. That's the one I'm main concerned about, not just for hail, but especially as we get into East Texas, some tornadoes kind of breaking out within that corridor, especially as we head into Louisiana, back into Mississippi. But here's where the latest helicity update tracks kind of your the most prone areas where you see the updrafts, where you see the most prone areas of seeing some larger hail and possible spin up tornadoes within portions of central Kansas, back into pockets of Oklahoma, as well as into west and north Texas, especially into east and northeast Texas, but are really confined into southern portions of Arkansas, and especially back into northern Louisiana, as well as into Mississippi. This will eventually feed into portions of Alabama, getting into the overnight hours on Friday. But man, this rain is starting to really start to elevate and really start to add up. Every run has actually become a little bit more bullish with these convective complexes. We still are in an El Nino prone induced setup, and that's exactly what's going to happen as we get some of those elevated higher water content values pulling in from the Gulf of Mexico. That's going to unload across these areas across the south. So they really upped the ante on some of these rain amounts across north and southeastern Oklahoma into Arkansas, but especially as you head into Mississippi and getting into Alabama now, where they actually have an increased, now moderate risk for excessive rainfall. We actually been talking about this for several days on this channel. Now it's really start to come into fruition. Those we have areas, those are already flash flood watches in place. So yes, this could be an overnight flash flooding setup. So not just a tornado threat, some large hail threat, but also a very heavy rain flash flooding threat as we get into the Birmingham region. And then once you cross the midnight hour into the wee hours of the morning, that convective complex will fishtail into Georgia and start inundating those areas into Atlanta back into the wee hours of the morning on Friday night into Saturday morning with that very heavy rainfall. And that just continues moving off into the east, now highlighted during the day on Saturday for those areas into the Florida Panhandle, back into southeastern Alabama, especially into Georgia by then heading up the coast into the Carolinas and back into the North Carolina region. That's where they could see again heavier rainfall, isolated pockets of some larger hail, and an isolated spin up tornado is not out of the question with that very active subtropical jet stream with that upper level low will be moving across. But there's the cold front on the backside as you wake up on Saturday morning around 6 o'clock in the morning. Here's where the actual temperatures will be. I mean, we're still technically in winter, folks. I know it's been really warm for a lot of areas in February and March, but this is a stronger cold blast of some colder air with those temperatures dropping to freezing. Anything in blue, northwest, all of those, that is your freezing mark. But you can see where the actual cold front is and where the warm sector will be heading into Saturday, and that's where they have that elevated severe risk down into the southeast and up the east coast. But once that continues to move up the east coast by Saturday afternoon around 3 o'clock, there's more heavy rain. That's the last thing they want to see. I mean, a lot of these areas ended in the top 10 wettest 2023, but then now we started 24, and a lot of those areas along the east coast have been pounded again with more heavy rain, well above average precipitation across that region. And you're going to be inundated with more heavy rain with that another convective complex continue to shift up the east coast back into the Ohio Valley and up there into the northeast. And where it's cold enough, that's where we could lead to some heavier snows starting to fall on the backside. It's mainly a higher elevation event, but it does include those areas in upstate New York, back into Vermont and New Hampshire, as well as into northern Maine. They could be picking up some pretty decent snowfall from this particular setup, especially up there into those higher elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire, and especially into northern Maine there. Pretty good decent coating of heavier snows, and that could last for the majority of the day as most of the area will be clearing out on the backside. That's one good thing about cold fronts that come through on the backside. It tends to cleanse the atmosphere and clear the atmosphere out, so it wipes it clean and it leaves with a very nice day on Sunday for a good part of the country. The only area that has the instability and the only colder air will be up there in the far northern interiors of the Northeast. As the rain subsides and pushes off, you'll have that colder air that comes in the backside with that upper level low that will continue to traverse across into Maine and leading to those heavier snowfall totals. But then we'll likely have a respite for a couple days, right? So it tends to cleanse the atmosphere out, and the atmosphere has time to reset. I mean, reset meaning once that clears out, typically the southwest winds start to come back. You start fueling the atmosphere again. You start elevating those temperatures again. And now we see another convective complex. And you tend to get on these 7-day cycles a lot. And that's exactly what likely will unfold as we head into next week, as we're looking at March 14th now in the morning, as we have another area of disturbed weather with this upper level low that will be highlighted over Nebraska. That's going to again feed into that subtropical jet and lift that moisture over Texas again and Oklahoma and eventually back into the southeast, which leads to more severe weather and more heavy rain. So as we get into next Thursday, this again could have kind of a deja vu type of effect that originates into far west Texas, goes through North Texas, through Oklahoma, and then really elevates as we get into East Texas and back into the southeast again, with very heavy rainfall starting on Thursday, move through Friday, and then heading in to Saturday, just like this week, for the 14th, 15th, and 16th time frame. So we may be doing this all over again as we get into that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday time frame of next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys following. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch me next update. Wire protect you before and after storm.